Good afternoon. It's about 2 o'clock. I've been doing a little bit of prep work today for tonight's dinner. I took my starter. Remember, I had those 2 little pieces that I added some flour and some water to, and I had it out overnight. And I have another batch of bread getting ready to ferment on the counter. I just put that together a couple minutes ago. And I also took my seasoning pack. Remember I said I always hold a little bit out. I just put it in this jar to make it easier for me to use in a minute here. And I had pre-soaked my beans. Remember those garlic scapes I had in the beginning video? They were getting too hard. They had been too mature, so they weren't edible at that point, but they still had really good flavor. So I broke those up, put them in the bottom, added my beans, added some onion powder, just a little touch of oil. It helps to keep them from foaming, a little bit of salt, and I just pressure cooked them for, whatever amount of time. I think it took 6 minutes. So I'm going to use some of these for dinner tonight, and the rest are going to be portioned out and thrown in the freezer. It's a good way to save time later on. I won't have to remake them for yet another meal. And in the meantime, I have some rice in the pan here. I have 1 cup. I'm going to add 2 cups of water. And a great budget stretcher, if you're making a Mexican type meal, is to add some of your spice to rice. The rice picks up the flavor really well, and I'm using about half that package. I'm going to cook it like usual. It's going to absorb all those flavors. And if you add beans to it, it makes a complete protein and carbohydrate, which gives you what you need for that meal. So I'm going to go ahead and cook my rice. The way I do it is I put it on a pretty good, not quite so it's bubbling over, but kind of high. And that for 10 minutes, and then I shut it off for 10 minutes. It's not done yet. I do not open it. I leave it for another 10 minutes, come back and fluff it, and I have perfect rice every time. So those are the couple of things that I am getting ready together right now. I did not end up eating my raspberries last night, so I had those, and actually had 2 muffins for breakfast because one of the guys didn't want theirs. And so then I started prepping this meal. And tonight I want to use up that pineapple salsa that I made. So the next step I'm going to come back and work on is making some tortillas. All right, tortillas really are not difficult to make. In here I have 1 cup of flour. I added 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. It should have baking powder, but I don't have it. So you know the trick. I have a 1/2 cup of warm water with a 1/2 teaspoon, because I don't need a lot of vinegar in there. And I have a dash of salt. The next step is I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of oil of some type. Some people use lard. That's the authentic way, and that would be probably my favorite, but we use what we have, right? And I'm going to mix that in with most of my water. I'm not going to add it all because it depends on how you measure your dough or your flour. It depends on the humidity and things like that, how much water you're going to use. So I'm going to put the majority of it, but I'm going to hold back a little bit. I'm going to use a spoon that I already used to mix my bread, because why get another dirty utensil? And you're just going to stir this together to what is called a shaggy dough. Basically, it barely comes together, holds together, and you might have a little bit of flour. See, I didn't need all that water. I may even have too much now. It's too sticky. So luckily, I have a little bit of flour right here that I was going to dust my counter with. So we will add back a couple pinches at a time to make sure that it's not too wet, because you have to have it so that you can roll it out without it sticking to everything. And I think we're going to be okay with this. I'm going to pick up the rest of this. The next step, it just takes time. You bring it together and you want to knead it. If I need to flour my counter, I will, because I'm going to do this on the counter. But you want to knead it. See, it's kind of rough looking now. You want it to be nice and smooth, because it builds up the gluten and it makes it really elastic. Kneading is nothing but folding over, pressing, folding over, pressing. Do this for 3-4 minutes if you can. The longer the better on bread products, to be honest. Still a little bit too wet, so I will need to add a little bit more. And after it's completely kneaded, I'll show you the difference in how it looks. All right, I've had this going for, a good 3 minutes or so. And as you can see, it's just getting kind of pliable. It's very soft. It kind of reminds me of kids' Play-Doh. And it's not sticking to anything. It kind of sticks in the beginning, but that's common because I use a lot less flour than most people. I would rather add it than to worry about it later. And if it sticks to your counter, you don't want to add too much. I'm literally just dusting it because honestly, once you roll it out, it does help it if it sticks just a tiny bit. And I'm not talking stick. It doesn't stick to my hands. I can pull it off the counter. It just kind of has a little grip to it when I'm kneading it. So I'm going to finish this up, and you can see it's makes a nice ball, and it has some elasticity to it. So all I'm going to do now is take my bowl, and I'm going to cover it up for a good 30 minutes. Even a little bit longer is fine. And then I'll get ready to roll them out. I'm getting ready to make my tortillas. My rice is done and it's actually cooled off a bit. And in this pot here, I have the rest of my chicken from that pack that I bought. And I added the majority of the leftover taco seasoning. I reserved just a little bit in case I want to use it for something else. So I'm going to let that simmer for a while, get the flavors in there. And in the meantime, I'm going to get ready to roll out my tortillas. You can see my dough has really gotten soft and beautiful, holds the shape. So I have to start by cutting it into roughly 6 pieces because there's 2 of us. So I figured that would be about right. Just going to gently form these into a little ball and set most of them to the back because you're going to do these one by one. Doesn't take long, really. I'm just going to kind of form them into a little ball. Now, this dough is very soft, very pliable. That relaxation and the kneading really makes a big difference. If you find it a little sticky, don't worry. You can always, like I'm going to do, light coating of flour on your counter. The reason I put it in a ball is it just makes it a little easier. And then I kind of pat it out just a little bit to get it started. And put my knife aside and take my rolling pin. I start from the center and go out. Oh, I need to, forgot to flour my pin. Go out. And then you want to kind of keep it in a circle, so then you turn it and go the other direction. You're going to want to roll these out fairly thin because they will puff up in the pan. Going each direction, trying to keep it sort of round. I don't really care if they're totally round, as long as they're sort of roundish. I'm going to get this pretty thin. And once it hits the pan, it only takes a few seconds. So set you up my pan here. Take my tortilla that's been rolled. We're going to drop it in the pan. You can hear my pan's might be too high, so you have to always, adjust your heat. And while that one's going, I'm going to simply roll out my next one. These go pretty quick once you get working on them. Let me see. We got some nice color on that side. I have the next one ready to go. As soon as that one comes off, I'll start rolling the next one. And in just, 10-15 minutes, you have every one of them ready to go. All right, there's the first one. Second one's going in the pan. There we go. It's just a matter of rolling out the next one. All right, it's starting to move. When it starts to move, it's usually okay to start flipping it. I don't want to get them too crisp. Remember, you want these to fold if you're making tacos. So that's good. Put it up there. My next one's kind of wonky, but wasn't paying much attention when I was rolling it. And we'll just keep going until we're done. The meal came together pretty quick. I took my beans, I just microwaved them and mashed them up. And what I'm going to do is, like I said, we don't eat a lot of them, so I just make a very thin layer on the bottom of mine. The guys probably won't bother with them. But, you know, it's kind of like that 7-layer dip. I don't like the beans, but I like them in that dip, so I'm kind of doing it like that, okay? Put my beans down. Some cheese if you like it. Okay, I like lots of cheese. Then my meat, I added equal portions of the rice, and then I added some corn. Just give it a little crunch and bulk it up a little bit. Not the prettiest thing, is it? Take some of that, make myself a nice size taco. And then I'm going to put my pineapple salsa. I wish I had some sour cream, but I don't. But there you go. There is my taco. I'm going to have 2 of those if I'm hungry for dinner. And on the side, I'm going to eat my pickled relish just because, I don't know, I feel like it. So, wonderful day, everybody. Let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment below. And I hope to see you back soon.